Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, world. You're welcome to Morning Spring for today and the last for this week. Thank you for staying with us all week. And it's a pleasure to have, you join us again on this program. You have really made us a part of your morning routine, and we appreciate that. Femi Ojo is my name, and it gives us great pleasure to know that you are here with us. And of course, we must sincerely apologize for, one or two days that we were off your screens as far as this program is concerned. It's for the best. We are back here, and we don't take your support for granted. Thank you for joining us. This is Friday, and thank God it's Friday. Thank you very much. Yeah, Daniel. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Femi.
Thank God it's Friday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always great to be Friday. I mean, it's been a wonderful week.
It is.
So many events.
Wonderful in all sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. In all things, give thanks. So, like you said, whatever happens, happens for good. It's for the greater good. So good morning to you, our distinguished viewers. Thank you once again for joining us on Morning Spring. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. I mean, for those of you who've been joining us from Monday till now, we really appreciate you, and we do not take you for granted. Daniel Emeka is my name. Here on Morning Spring, we talk about, critical issues. We have conversations with stakeholders, and we dive into serious matters. As far as it's important, you get to hear it from us right here on Morning Spring. And of course, we start with the newspaper review segment, after which we go into other discussions. Thank you once again for joining us. Talking about being an eventful week, Femi. Something that really touched me, that caught my attention. Here on Morning Spring, we talk about leadership, we talk about governance, we talk about democracy and all that. Now, a court in Paris, France, yesterday sentenced former French President Nicolas Sarkozy to 5 years in jail, handed out a 5-year jail sentence to him. Fine, he's going to appeal that sentence, but here's a lesson from that particular incident. It shows that no one should be above the law.
Untouchable. No
one should be untouchable. Yeah. So that's former French president. He was president from 2007 to 2012. And he was found to have, gotten some funds for former Libyan leader, Muammar Gaddafi, millions of, euros. In a particular account, one of his aides said he actually delivered 5 million euros in cash to him just to support his campaign, even though he was acquitted of some, charges, passive corruption and all that. But again, it goes to show that no one should be untouchable. Here's a former president who's getting a 5-year jail term, who's been convicted. How many times do we see that in Africa, Femi? How many times have we seen that happen in Africa? Who even talks about how, African presidents get their campaign funds? Come to Nigeria. Look at Nigeria, for instance. Just imagine someone talking about, let's probe out Obasanjo or Goodluck Jonathan or Tinubu got his campaign funds. Nigerians don't really bother about that, but it shows how important it is for us to scrutinize everything. Here is someone who's been found guilty of getting money from Libya, not even for stealing money from France, his country. But here we have leaders, who steal money from the country, take it elsewhere, and still, come and openly flaunt their ill-gotten wealth, and we do nothing about it. Such a great lesson to learn from, what happened in France.
Yeah. And as far as Africa is concerned, we have a long way to go. Sometimes, when I saw the news that you talked about Nicolas Sarkozy, quite a powerful president he was during his time, and, being handed a 5-year jail term, of course, he could appeal, and it has to do with his transaction or his relationship, the court has said is a criminal one, during the time of Muammar Gaddafi. Since that time, and he's still being brought to book now in a powerful, very powerful country like France. And just like I said, I agree absolutely. When do we get to that time in Africa in which every leader will know, irrespective of when you have been in power, you can always be called to question. And it won't be because somebody is witch hunting you, because that's the thing in Africa. Even when you see former leaders being brought to book, is because the person in power most of the time doesn't like their face, or they want to, punish or show them, use the state to show them that I will make you disappear or go away for a long time. So the motive is wrong from the beginning. instead of doing whatever they are doing for the state, instead of doing whatever they are doing from the motive of accountability, and to know that whatever we have, whatever they have is in trust for the people. So they will know it's nothing personal, even if you have to be my friend, in as much the state has something against you, you could be called to question, and it won't be. And there is a way that the people, especially in Africa, in Nigeria, has been manipulated to believe the moment somebody from your place is called to question, and the person in charge now is not from your place, oh, this person wants to deal with somebody from region A, region B. And you know why? Politicians will weaponize this to say, he doesn't like you Muslims. The guy is a Christian. So those people too, the gullible ones, see it as an attack on their religion. Oh, he doesn't like Christians. He doesn't like Roman Catholics. He doesn't like Pentecostals. It's because he's from a Yoruba man. No, it's because he's an Igbo man or somebody from Hausa land or Kanuri, and everything is just watered down from those sentiments. And then the leaders, I'm sure they will know that, oh, it is working. 10 years down the line, they rinse and they repeat. 20 years down the line, 65 years down the line, they are still rinsing and repeating. You know, talking about Sarkozy and the indictment against him, and there is another issue in which newspapers reported yesterday that some chairmen and councillors in Zamfara State, they're on their way to, is it the UK now or the US, for capacity building. That is not even the issue. The issue is, though, all of them are going with their wives.
They're trying, Femi, they're trying
for capacity building.
Femi, they're trying
in a very poor state, like a war. I don't want to say war. Banditry infested states like Zamfara. Councillors and chairmen are going for capacity building abroad with their spouse.
Perhaps they are trying to build capacity with their wives, And
they had to do that outside of the shores of the country and come back to a banditry infested state.
It shows how irresponsible a lot of our leaders
succinctly put. You have just captured
Nigeria.
It. Irresponsible.
That's just it. That's just because these people, they don't care about the plight of the people. The people are suffering. The people can't even go to their farms, like you said. Bandits infested areas, not taken care of, and we have these ones, just going to have a good time.
No,
whatever capacity building,
building.
Whatever capacity building, rather.
Let me retrieve. It's in Adamawa State.
Adamawa State. Okay. Adamawa. Whatever capacity building it is, can't it be done here in Nigeria? Do you know how much you'll spend even for flight tickets alone? Yeah. Not to talk of hotel accommodation.
21 wives of local government chairmen from Adamawa State have traveled to Istanbul, Turkey. They are even gone to Turkey for a week-long leadership training program aimed at equipping them to assist and advise their husband.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so it's just the wives now.
Hold on, sir. 21 wives of local government chairmen from Adamawa State have traveled to Istanbul, Turkey for a week-long leadership training program aimed at equipping them to assist and advise their husband in their roles as local government chairmen. And the trip, which began last week, has sparked widespread criticism due to unpaid salaries and pensions for local government workers and retirees in the state. So they are owing workers, they are owing retirees, those local government chairmen, yet their wives. The training accompanied, according to reports, the training accompanied by senior officials from the Ministry of Local Government, those ones are there as well, focuses on governance strategies and leadership capacity building. And this is where we are. So it is the wives. I wish I can see the pictures. I think it's the wives.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because before the women, start to say, we are fighting against them,
so that they will know how to assist and advise.
See the way I'm looking at it. Now the wives are getting official trips, for capacity building. Outside the shores of Nigeria.
You must ask that. How to assist and advise their husband. In Turkey.
Femi, permit me to say this. Before now, the wives, have been complaining that the girlfriends have been getting unofficial trips.
Did they complain to me?
So now they decided to make it official. But it's quite unfortunate. That's just on a lighter note.
In Istanbul, Turkey,
it's quite unfortunate.
To know how to assist and advise.
When workers are being owed salaries.
In those local governments. And retirees,
And these people will come back freely and they will still, I see, Femi, leaders are taking the people for granted. What audacity.
The docility
to do
thing,
such a thing.
The docility word keeps coming up every now and then. You know, because it's not just because they're taking the people for a ride. Do you know that by the time they are returning, some of their kinsmen will travel to the airport to go and welcome them?
And they'll come back with confidence?
IGI is back.
Not scared that they might get stoned?
Are they scared right now? They said some of the members officials of the Ministry of Local Government accompanying them there. So it's not something hidden. I'm sure in the next 7 days, when they come back, if they decide not to extend it, that they have not really gotten the training very well, you know, because they can say, oh, the training has not really, you know, sunk in and they need to get more. Some of their kinsmen will still troop to the airport to go and welcome them. Here in Nigeria, president was traveling, state governors, like 4 of them, went to do bye-bye.
To wave the aircraft.
Just to wave them. To say, see you later, boys. And they will travel back to their state. When he was coming back, some that accompanied him came down to, you know, to say, oh, God, you are welcome. Some went there to say, you are welcome. That is the nation that we are running here in Nigeria. You know, you start from the place of Sarkozy now being brought to book, 5 years jail time for a former powerful president just because of personal interactions and undue, you know, whatever relationship, you know, to the tune of 5 million euros or thereabout. But in Nigeria, these ones are there. Just local government chairmen. Their wives, 21. To learn how to assist.
The wealth of the people.
To learn how to assist and advise. So they had to do that in Turkey. Not even in Abuja. Not from the elders in their kinsmen. The word of their own elders are not the words of wisdom. It's the words of Turkish people, you know, that can tell them how to assist their husbands in Adamawa. So make it make sense. They went to Turkey to learn how to assist their husbands in Adamawa State.
I think it's quite pathetic.
Very pathetic.
What's happening, right? And the people are just silent. I think it's high time people stood up and started, you know, people started fighting for their rights. They should. Because this tribe, and do you know, even Adamawa State, I'm sure there are other tribes there. Some people will still come up and say, oh, it's because he's from this place. It's because of that. You know, apart from that, before we look at the newspapers shortly, on the global space, the hunger is on, by the way, United Nations General Assembly, and many persons have been speaking. Vice President Atiku, I beg your pardon, Vice President Shetima, you know, spoke on behalf of Nigeria yesterday. You know, I saw it, quite a strong, you know, presentation, by the way. But it was like the same book being repeated over and over. Because I remember we were here last year, and 2 things were out of those things that Vice President Shetima said yesterday, 2 days ago, was still being repeated. They talked about debt forgiveness, actually, for Africa, and a seat, you know, on the United Nations Security Council, permanent seat, actually, not the other ones. Yeah. And, you know, during the same presentation, I see you giggling already. In the same vein, in the same section that VP Shetima was talking, it looked like a discordant to you. You know why? You are talking about getting a seat. Africa deserves a seat, you know, the United Nations Security Council, permanent seat now. And if it's going to be anybody, you know, he's making a case for Nigeria. Fine. And in the same presentation, he's talking about debt forgiveness. So make it make sense. A nation that is begging other nation for debt forgiveness is saying the same nation should sit at the United Nations Security Council on a permanent basis. How does that make sense? And you know, when you say this, now people will say, oh, you don't love your country. How does it make sense? You are begging creditors to forgive you, yet you want to sit permanently at the highest decision-making body of security in the world. Let me say this.
Same thing was last year.
Yeah, Nigerian leaders are wasteful. You know, apart from corruption, you know, corruption is one big problem in Nigeria. Our leaders are just wasteful. Nigeria has enough resources, you know, to go around, but we just have leaders who are wasteful. That's a problem. And sometimes they don't think it through. Some of the things they do, they don't even think it through. And they go out there and when they speak, the other leaders are just, you know, quiet, just looking at them, just quiet and just watching them, see why are these people making a fool of themselves. It's quite unfortunate. Again, until we deal with that and until we deal with corruption, I've said it before, until we start having past leaders being convicted and sent to jail for crimes committed while they were in office. Until then, we have not started fighting corruption.
I agree with you. And, you know, not just that they are being prosecuted, they are prosecuted and the prosecution is fast. Because we've seen leaders in Nigeria being prosecuted for 12 years and the court will tell them due to technicalities, go and restart. That person I'm talking about is a member of the Nigerian Senate, former governor right now. So it's a lot. And, you know, before we hit a break, your dear friend, Donald Trump, spoke as well at the NGA, and you expect the two-state solution thing, you know, for the Israel-Palestine thing has been causing ripples. And many of former allies, you know, people who used to support Israel, they are backing up because they believe whatever is happening in Gaza right now is crazy. It's no more logical.
Yeah, so that many UK, of them are Australia, Canada, now France.
France. Yeah. And many of them are talking about the two-state thing. And, you know, it looks like on a lighter note. And Donald Trump threw shades at Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. Actually, you know, they have been at each other's throat. And he said many things. We even talked about London under Khan proposing being ruled by Sharia. They say, you know, the way the guy speaks, like it's a pity for him. And he even hit the United Nations to say two things have happened when he was going to the place, that the escalator, got bad. And if not because his wife is a very strong person and fit person, who could have, injured her. And the fact that they gave him a terrible teleprompter, that's the only thing he has enjoyed at the UN. Donald Trump. Quite a very interesting and sometimes awkwardly interesting man. But then we get to look at these as well. And news out yesterday as well, you know, because we had to let you to know what is happening, that the men of the Federal Road Safety Corps are asking that they should be allowed to carry arms. They want to have guns.
That's a huge
road safety.
That's a huge one.
And they gave their reasons to say some of their persons are being killed in the line of duty by reckless drivers. And they talk about trailers, you know, these trucks that carry many persons and they carry cows, and you are telling them to stop and they are not stopping.
Femi,
so they should be allowed to carry guns.
Femi, if you ask me, and this is sincerely my own opinion, it is not necessary. And here's how I mean.
Okay.
If the FRSC men are well trained, Femi, they are not supposed to be engaging criminals. Have you seen some of them? I've seen some of them, even in Abuja. You see their conduct, the way they try to stop vehicles, it doesn't make any logical sense. Some of these guys are graduates. Yeah. You see them jumping in front of vehicles, trying to... So it doesn't make sense. They're very
unprofessional.
If they are so professional, if they are well trained, they have no business carrying arms. FRSC shouldn't be engaging. Their mandate, Femi, is not to engage criminals.
That's right.
It's for road safety. So why should they be carrying weapons?
But they are saying they are trying to enforce road, rules and regulations, but they are reckless people. So they need to be...
There are ways to enforce those rules. You don't have to engage the drivers on the road. Just get their details.
Technology.
I mean, everything is technology driven now, for God's sake. Why should you as an FRC officer, be jumping in front of a vehicle or carrying guns to harass? Now we have police, harassing people with guns. Some people want to get guns. I don't know the way it affects their brain.
It's all about power.
Exactly.
Actually. When you know that you have an advantage.
We have trigger policemen everywhere. Now you want FRC officials to start carrying guns too. So at any slightest provocation, a trigger-happy officer will just...
Everybody will just be carrying gun on the road.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
The VIO will ask for guns.
If you ask me, it doesn't make any sense.
Then you have to people will ask for guns. And everybody will just look like... But they gave their reasons. We'll look into that in the coming days, actually, because they gave their reasons. But then I was thinking, now that you are saying you should carry guns, and because of trailers, does that mean if the trailer is not stopping, then you start shooting?
That's the point.
What does that mean?
That's the point. That's the point.
All right, we'll expand that conversation. But right now, the papers are in, and it's a very interesting one. You don't want to miss any part of it. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now we go straight to the front pages of the newspapers this morning. All right, we'll start from the front page of the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper this morning, Nigeria not broke, but deep fiscal concerns linger Nigeria not broke, but deep fiscal concerns linger. That's the banner headline right there. You can read up that story on pages 4 and 5. That's a big story right there on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. On the top strip, 2027, ADC leaders scramble to fix deep rifts as opposition coalition nears collapse. ADC leaders scramble to fix deep rifts as opposition coalition nears collapse. You find the story on page 6. The question is, why is the opposition coalition nearing collapse? What could possibly cause, collapse of a coalition that just started? You might want to find out details of that on page 6. But again, they'll tell you all is well with the party. That's talking about ADC right there. Away from that, over 6,000 lives lost to religious ethnic conflicts, says Plateau governor. Over 6,000 lives lost to religious ethnic conflicts, says Plateau governor. You'll find that story on page 29. And beside that, 2027, Ganduje, Jibrin, others vow to retake Kano for Tinubu. 2027, Ganduje, Jibrin, others vow to retake Kano for Tinubu. You find that story on page 3. Let's see how exactly they intend to take Kano from Tinubu. And now there are talks that even Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso himself and the Kwankwasia movement, they are having talks considering, the campaign to the APC. So let's see how that plays out. But NMPP are actually not in support of that. They are saying they are not part of it. That is just his own personal decision if he decides to join the APC. But again, if he does, that will be a big win for the APC right there. Away from that, moving on to other stories, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Quite a busy one, always a busy one on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. On the ref strip, we have debt service to revenue ratio. Debt service to revenue ratio, you see the details right there. 2014, we have 29%, 2022, 73%, 2023, 69.2%, 2024, 59.9%. Talking about debt service to revenue ratio. Then below that, we have contingent liabilities. Buhari's below that we have Buhari's last estimate over 5 trillion naira power subsidy, opaque but in multiple millions. Talking about power subsidy, then also we have unfulfilled commitments to public workers. You see details of that right there. Then below we have benchmark comparison, Nigeria tax to GDP rates, tax to GDP ratio rather 10%. Then we have African average at 16%. So many figures right there. Then beside that, we also have revenue and expenditure. Total revenue 2024 at 19.35 trillion naira. Then debt, non-debt recurrent expenditure 2024, we have 18.9 trillion naira. Then below that, we have capital expenditure 2024 at 7.8 trillion naira. Then capital expenditure 2020 to 2022 cumulative 19.3 trillion naira. Then of course you also have savings and buffers. Of course, sinking funds. Last significant savings in 2017, 177 billion naira. That's 177 billion naira. Then since 2022, zero allocation. Excess crude accounts, FCA dormant. So you can read up all that on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. So much just figures right there for you to tinker with, for you to understand exactly how the economy is being explained on paper right there. Away from that rather, from politics to palace, Ladoja's odyssey to Olubadan throne. From policy to palace, Ladoja's odyssey to Olubadan throne. You find that on the politics and policy page 22 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. New study links poverty, transport woes to worsening health in Lagos. New study links poverty, transport woes to worsening health in Lagos. You might want to find out how transport woes is affecting worsening health in Lagos. Quite a stressful state, if you ask me. Okay, the hustle and bustle of Lagos. If you're not used to it, not many people can actually live in Lagos. Some will tell you that they would rather not live in Lagos. And again, not everyone can drive in Lagos. I know people who can drive, but they don't drive in Lagos. It's something that, well, if you can survive in Lagos, like I always say, you can always survive in any part of the country. Because when you leave Lagos and go to some other states, the state just looks like a sleeping state to you. I mean, everyone is relaxed. You know, and when you get initially, you always, you know, you have that hustling and bustling spirit. But after a while, you get to realize that you just have to slow down. The people here are not, you know, hustling and bustling like Lagosians. But that's that. So you might want to find out how, you know, transport woes is actually affecting worsening health conditions in Lagos. You see that story on page 27 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Away from that, we have how Tinubu ended career stagnation in paramilitary services. How Tinubu ended career stagnation in paramilitary service. You find that on page 2. And on the bottom strip, blackout averted as electricity workers suspend strike. Oh, thank goodness. Blackout averted as electricity workers suspend strike. You find that story on page 3. I guess the electricity workers have finally suspended their, you know, strike, so we shouldn't be having any blackouts. Again, I say thank goodness to that, because that's not what we need right now. I mean, having a blackout? No, we have so many challenges to deal with, not to start contending with total blackouts again. That will be all from the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, and talking about the power situation and the labor unions calling off their strike action. We'll talk about that in the course of the program today. We expand it further. What are the reasons why they initially wanted to go on strike? And what is the power situation in Nigeria as of today? Because that's a very important sector. And, you know, you talked about Lagos and the hustling and the bustling. I remember when you said that there is a way Lagos makes you think. So when you get into another area, if you're not careful, you still be behaving in that way, always rushing, always unnecessary, at alert, and all of those things. You know what they say? There is this balance in Lagos. Ijawa Ojasi, always guided. Like, problem day, problem no day. You just day. So, the true life story now, I saw it, you know, the person tweeted, and a Lagosian actually went to Abuja or something, and then she stopped a taxi, actually, and then as the taxi stopped, she was running to go and meet the taxi. And she said everybody was looking at her. What's wrong with this? They were looking at the by what pursuit, nothing, just to go and catch up with the taxi. And when she entered, she saw everybody looking, and the taxi person was looking at the back. Exactly is the problem. And she wrote on her Twitter page that Lagos, you do this one. See what Lagos has turned out to.
Because if you don't run in Lagos, you miss the ride.
You stop it, another person will enter. Even if the person stops in front of you, 3 or 4 persons are rushing from all the doors, and he's in Abuja.
Sometimes even if there's no one else, Lagos drivers are just impatient.
Yeah.
This one is not ready. Just zoom off.
And the person was running in Abuja. So I see what you have done to me. Everybody is looking like me, like something is wrong. Why is he running? All right. So many things. So, you know, the person is just trying to be, it's a spirit actually. When you live in Lagos for some time, even when they come to this part, let's say Osun State, that just like something you said, they feel like there is no life there. Some of them come for Christmas, and after like 2 days, it appears like they are bored, and you are looking at them, why are you bored? This is how life should be. No papa, everywhere, and all of these things. All right, let's look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Punch for today, 2027 presidency. 2027 presidency. Coalition demands Atiku obeys full membership. Coalition demands Atiku obeys full membership. The Punch has the paper with a rider. APC, others push back as coalition directs members to abandon parties for ADC. The rider again, APC, others push back as coalition directs members to abandon parties for ADC. So much for the coalition. And below that, the happening man, as far as the Southwest is concerned, right now, talking about the traditional institution, Ladoja Saints Olubadan throne. You can see the picture of the man beaming with a smile. He smiles a lot, actually, if you know Governor Adewolu Ladoja. He will now be former governor for the Olubadan of Ibadan land. That's a big throne there.
Absolutely.
And Kabiyesi to him. And you have some riders to that inside. Ladoja's 32-year journey to throne. And Makinde cut short annual leave for coronation. And Tinubu top dignitaries to attend historic ceremony. Once governor, now monarch. Ladoja's royal story. Why Ladoja's emergence was rancor-free, Balogun designate, and Olubadan's unique succession system. That's a system that needs to be studied, actually, because it's not about being a royal blood in Ibadan. It's a structure. You move. Everybody knows who is next, actually, in Ibadan, because it's done by rank. You emerge from Mogaji, then you begin to move. Osi Olubadan, Otun Olubadan, Balogun, and then when it's your turn, everybody knows it is your turn. That's just the way it works in Ibadan. And we say Kabiyesi to Oba Ladoja. Now, moving on. That's life. Life goes on. Oven fire forces Delta Lagos Atlanta flight diversion. And 6 hospitalized as Lagos seals collapsed 2-story building. It was in some quarter, a show of sorrow and agony, wasted resources when some areas in, I think the trade fair area in Lagos was visited and some structures were demolished, actually, for contravening, the laws on the land.
Yes, several structures, several buildings were demolished. Yeah. But the question on my mind is this. Where were they when those structures were erected? Yeah. Who gave approval for those structures? Because sometimes we should apply common sense when we do things. Yes, a government, those people didn't just wake up one day to erect those structures. Yeah. Okay? They spend their hard-earned money. These guys are businessmen.
Many of them were story buildings.
Exactly. So you just go to pull them down. Who approved those structures in the first place?
Some of them said, some of those officials who were there said they never got approval or whatever they did, or maybe...
Do you really think it's possible that someone will spend millions of naira to erect a structure without getting approval?
That's what they said. And maybe it was done in a shoddy way. There is a way, I don't speak for them, but there is a way in Nigeria. Somebody tells you, don't worry, they'll just give me like $1 million naira. I will run these things for you. I will bring the paper to come and meet you at home. And the person will believe it's original.
And they waited for them to erect the building and start using it for business.
That's a terrible thing. Yeah. No, some of them are still even under construction. Many of them were finished already. 3-4 stories buildings. And when you saw those cranes, it's a sad story. Now, marketers fought Dangote's 500,000 litre fuel delivery threshold. I think there is issue, and this battle is not going to go away soon, especially with Dangote's foray into the downstream sector. Now, 804 billion naira arms imports ignites cause for local production. 804 billion naira arms imports ignite cause for local production. Southeast governors pushing for Nnamdi Kanu's release. OT. All right. And Niger Delta militancy made Jonathan's presidency possible. I take it on. And INEC gears up for off-cycle polls, promotes 471 officers. That'll be all. From the front page of the Punch.
And from the Punch newspaper, we move straight to the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, ahead defection. Kwankwaso in talks with Nentawe. Kwankwaso in talks with Nentawe. That's talking about Rabi Musa Kwankwaso right there in talks with the APC national chairman, Professor Yewatda Nentawe. Earlier on, I talked about, the possibility of him defecting, this Kwankwaso defecting to the APC. Now, officially, he's in talks with the national chairman of the party. It seems he's making progress. He's trying to make good his intentions to defect to the APC. And again, like I said, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has a huge followership in Kano. He has the Kwankwasia movement. Yeah. So again, but he has his own terms too. If they agree to his terms, he might just be joining the APC. Away from that, moving to the top strip now. Olubadan, Tinubu, Atiku, others for Ladoja's coronation today. Olubadan, Tinubu, Atiku, others for Ladoja's coronation today. You find the story on page 25. Jonathan meets ADC chair, David Mark. Jonathan meets ADC chair, David Mark, talking about alliances right there. It's all about politics, and then people are just looking for the best platform for them. We've talked about Jonathan here, possibility of him returning to the PDP. Now he's in talks with the ADC, whichever works for him. I believe that not long from now, we should start hearing, final decisions from them to know exactly what they're going to do, because we have people like Jonathan, we have people like Peter Obi, who we don't know yet what their final decision will be, and Nigerians are waiting to see what platform are they going to run on exactly if they intend to contest 2027 presidency. Away from that, sit on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. 3 children found dead in father's car in Borno. 3 children found dead in father's car in Borno. Now, this is quite unsettling. I just hope they didn't lock themselves in that car inadvertently, because it happens, when people get locked, trapped in a car, after some hours, they just, die of asphyxiation. So it happens, but it's quite unfortunate. In their father's car, quite unfortunate, when their father's car suddenly becomes their, anyway, you might want to read up that story right there. 3 children dying in their father's car in Borno. Away from that, still on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Man allegedly kills grandparents in Kano. Man allegedly kills grandparents in Kano. When I saw that story yesterday, I was shocked because I learned he killed them based on a dispute on food. I just can't, fathom that. I don't know exactly what happened. You might want to read up details of that story on page 5. How can a man stab his own grandparents to death? Some will say it's not ordinary. In this part of the world, some will say that, perhaps something else is involved. Maybe it's been remote control, different explanations, the way we say, here in Africa, because it doesn't really make any sense. Why would you kill your grandparents? I mean, they're on their way already. Why would you fast track their
Some
journey?
of those things, sometimes when you check through, I don't know, maybe that's the case for these, goes beyond that. It speaks sometimes to unchecked anger. Actually, anger is a very terrible thing, especially it's human to be angry. But have you seen some people's anger before? It's like a rage.
Destructive.
Actually, really, they even themselves, they are not in charge. The moment they get angry, and the thing will have left the cause of the, the argument or the disagreement in the first place, and it turns to this rage. And when the deed is done, the adrenaline is calm, and everybody, looks back, the destruction is done. So I used to talk to that, especially when people have that anger. You must identify that it's a problem and you need help, especially the destructive ones. Some people will tell you they can't control it until whatever comes out of them have been done.
I don't really believe that. A lot of people get angry. There are ways to control it. Sometimes just walk away. Don't say anything. Just walk away.
Yeah, those are ways to check it. But that person must know that there is something, that is a problem. Yeah. It's a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Away from that, moving to the bottom strip of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Insecurity. Katsina to procure 5,000 cartons of ammunition. Katsina to procure 5,000 cartons of ammunition. You find that story on page 6. Japan scraps Africa Hometown Initiative. You find that on page 14. And finally, from the front page of Daily Trust newspaper this morning, security operatives rescue 9-month-old others in Kwara. You find that on page 14 as well. And that'll be all from the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, we still have a couple, but then time will not permit us. We go on this quick break, but then we have a lot to tell you. You have a lot again, especially talking about power in Nigeria. We take a break right now. When we return, the program will continue. Stay with us, and we are live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television NG.